I'm an extrovert, so making connections with whoever I'm talking to is always important to me. And it's a little bit harder with distance students because in class you can see each other's expressions, you can hear the tone of voice, you can see the body language, and it's easier to talk to people when you're face to face. It's harder with your distance students sometimes because they're all over the United States, they're in different places of the world. So how do you make those connections? Because my distance students value that. They want to get to know me, they want to get to know each other, they want to feel like a community of students. So I'm going to go through some ideas and show you how I accomplish that. Some of my ideas, people will go, oh, but that just makes me uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable, your students know it. And they're probably uncomfortable communicating with you and probably uncomfortable in the class. So it's a matter of trying things out, finding what works, and then keep practicing until your comfort level changes. So what have we learned about what helps a class and helps students feel connected in class? Rapport. Rapport is the ability to connect and to relate to someone in a favorable manner. And students, through research, have shown that when they feel rapport with the instructor and with each other, there's a higher motivation to participate in the class and to learn. There's an increased comfort level, which means they're more likely to ask questions and to ask candid, open, honest questions with you. There's increased perceived quality of the program, not just the course, but the entire program that they're enrolled in. They report higher levels of satisfaction. They report enhanced communication between the teacher and themselves and with other students, and enhanced communication leads to enhanced learning. And trust develops. A lot of times you need trust to develop rapport, but a lot of times trust is an end result of developing the rapport. So how do you build rapport? First, you have to demonstrate respect. Respect for the student, respect for their learning styles, respect for the questions that they have, respect for their backgrounds, and that also means respect for the institution you're teaching at. So you need to demonstrate respect for K-State and our online program. You need open communication, because that's where they're going to feel comfortable asking you questions and being very candid. You need to make sure that what you say and what you do match up, because they'll call you out on that, and then you lose respect. And approachability, making sure they know when you're available inside the classroom and outside the classroom, which can be different in the online environment, but being approachable and helping them understand that. You also need to show that you care about them as an individual in your course, that you care about how much they learn, that you care about their learning styles. And be positive. A lot of times the positivity can be expressed in humor, in being open to different viewpoints, which we hope we're always open to different viewpoints, but we encourage them as students to be open to different viewpoints of other students, and that keeps the environment positive also. So to give you some examples of how different ways I've done this, I always do an introductory email a week before class even starts. And in that email, I just let them know who I am, when the course will be open for them to view, and just say, spend some time in the course before we have our first Zoom session so that you'll know what kind of things you want to ask about. I also do an introductory clip. This is a 1-minute clip. And it's just, again, introducing myself in a visual manner and letting them know how excited I am about the class, maybe a couple of the highlights of things we're going to try this semester to get a little bit of excitement generated. We have the standard introduce yourself board. What I do on this is where I tell them how I am addicted to Lord of the Rings and Star Trek, and that I thought I would marry Donny Osmond one day, and I didn't, but my husband does this, and my kids do this, and this is where my kids are, how many animals I have. It varies where I went to school, what my degrees are in. And I encourage them to do the same thing, but to also post a pet or a family picture, something. So we get to see my big family picture, and someday when I have grandkids, it's going to get even bigger. I'm looking forward to that. That's another story. But they'll post pictures of themselves, of their family, of their children, of their pets. They'll post vacation pictures. What that then is generates commonalities. They see where somebody went on vacation or what kind of dog they have, and discussions really get going. It's not just an introduction anymore. There's a continuing conversation based on these posts. Shared leadership, so to create that respect and sense of common attributes among them. There's 1 week where as a small group they're in charge of a message board, and so they come up with the topic, the questions, they keep the discussion going all week. So there's lots of ways you can give them shared leadership, but that creates a sense of belonging when they have that. We have your Ask a Question board, which, anytime somebody sends me a question that everybody could benefit from, which is most of the questions, I tell them, why don't you go post it on the Ask a Question board, and then they just automatically start doing it. The cool thing is, as they get comfortable with me in the class, they don't wait for me to answer. Other students start to answer questions for each other, and that enhances the learning process. They requested an Anything Goes board. You know how you sit in class and you'll turn to somebody and, talk about the healthcare or politics or, wildfires or something. They said, we want to be able to just talk about things that caught our interest, so we have an Anything That Goes board. What has worked best for me, I started doing this a year ago. When we meet in Zoom sessions, there'll be anywhere from 4 to 6 Zoom sessions in the semester. I show up 5 to 10 minutes early, and that'll be just, tell me again where you're from and what's the weather been like, type thing. We go through our Zoom content, and then we end it on what's called social hour, and they are loving this. And this is where I say, tell me something either this last week or the upcoming week that you're excited about, or something, that's concerning. What's happening in your life that you want us to know about? And then I go one by one, call on them, and I take notes. Initially, they're going to say things like, I had a test and it went great, or, I had a test and I bombed it. And they'll share things like, my daughter won the state rock climbing contest and she's going to nationals. What happens is that further into the semester, they're now going, you know what, we're having to put my mom in the nursing home in about 2 weeks, and this is really tough. Or my son fell, he broke his leg, and they're having to do surgery because it was multiple compound fractures. My daughter has an eating disorder, and we're considering whether we have to put her in unit, hospitalizer. Those are the types of things that start to come out about midpoint. But they're wanting to bond with each other. And then you take notes. So the next time you can go, Cindy, you were putting your mom in a nursing home. Tell us how that went. And what's happened as a result of that, this is where I was going to say, now turn to your neighbor and ask them something good that happened the week, but I got my signal. I'm getting close to time. So we won't make you, Wilson from Home Improvement. I think you're all old enough to recognize Wilson. What I found out that I think happened, it says mistakes are forgivable. I've had decent TVAL ratings all along. Ever since I started doing the social hour, they went up. And I think it's because once they feel connected with you and they're bonding with you and you've shared instances like that, they're forgiving. I still get comments on my TVALs of things they would like to see done differently, or, my organization sucks, according to them. The comments don't necessarily change from doing that, but the TVAL ratings didn't get impacted. Because there are times that they'll be upset about one thing in your class and it impacts the entire TVAL rating because that, has just really irritated them. When you create that rapport and they feel comfortable with you, they don't let one thing that might bother them impact the entire TVAL. At least that's my interpretation, because the only thing I've done differently was create that tell me about your week type thing. And the TVAL ratings went up from that point on. The last thing I want to mention, we have formed a teaching team in College of Human Ecology. We're from different departments. We teach small classes. We teach large classes. We do this informally. We meet once a month, and this is where we problem solve. We present issues we're having with our online classes, with our campus classes, and we exchange ideas and documents and what's worked and what's failed. So I encourage you, look at others that, not from your profession necessarily, but that have a variety of things, and form your own informal group and get together with them, because you can learn a lot from each other. Okay, thank you.